They say a phoenix is born in fire, exploding skyward, feathers blazing, destiny already written, but not me. I was born quietly, in the soft hush of ash. Not with a roar, but a realization. My wings were strong from the start. I could soar above the canopy. I had mastered the air. Strategy, vision, decisions. My song? Warm, connecting. Others followed my voice, but I was flying alone. Then came the scroll, the leader DNA. Flight, 88%. Song, 86%. Developing others, 59%. My coldest ember. For years, I had poured everything into my own flame, believing that leadership was about being the most brilliant, the most intense. My fire was a beacon, a declaration of my own strength and vision, but the leader DNA scroll had shown me a different path, a different need. Now I understood that leading meant something else entirely. Not more fire, but more patience. It meant restraining my own impulse to provide the answer, and instead, creating the space for others to find it. Not a louder song, but a deeper listening. Hearing the quiet ambition beneath a hesitant question. Seeing the spark of an idea in a colleague's eyes before they even spoke it aloud. It was an exercise in stillness, in observation. So I asked myself a new question. What if my purpose wasn't to be the brightest flame in the forest, but to become the keeper of the flames? The one who tends to the embers in others, shielding them from the wind and gently fanning them into a confident, self-sustaining blaze. Week 1. I began small, determined to unlearn my old habits of grand directives. My first attempt was with a single creature, a squirrel, whose every movement was quick with caution, always ready to retreat. I didn't approach with a checklist or a performance review. I simply sat by a small, ember-lit fire and asked a question I was only just learning to ask myself. What do you want to become? The squirrel paused, its natural skittishness giving way to a flicker of curiosity. I captured my observations on a scroll of smoke, my own hand shaky, my feedback honest but unpolished. It wasn't a plan, it was a mirror. And in that shared vulnerability, a tiny ember of trust sparked to life between us. Week 2 brought 2 more creatures into the circle, a clever fox and a gentle deer. The dynamic shifted. We talked, and I introduced the idea of building small growth nests, tangible representations of their aspirations. I saw their eyes light up, not with the reflected glow of my praise, but with the internal fire of possibility. We set a tiny, measurable goal for the fox, to map one new, safer path through the woods by week's end. It was a simple task, but it was task. The nest was no longer just a pile of twigs, it was the foundation of a future he was actively building. By week 3, the experiment had grown to 5 creatures. We established 5 distinct coaching circles, each with its own small fire, its own sacred space for reflection. It was here I began my flame journal, not a ledger of tasks, but a living scroll of my own reflections. What questions sparked insight? Where did my guidance become interference? Leadership was becoming a form of craftsmanship, requiring precision, patience, and a deep respect for the material. I remember the deer, who had been silent for 2 weeks, finally whispering, "I never thought about what I wanted the forest to be, only how I was supposed to live in it." That single sentence taught me more than 100 leadership books. In week 4, I changed my approach. Instead of initiating, I returned to their growth nests and simply asked for their input on our process. The change was immediate and profound. They started to tend to the fire themselves, bringing new logs, clearing away old ash. Then, something magical happened. They started mentoring each other. The fox, proud of his new map, shared his strategy with the squirrel. The deer offered the owl a quiet word of encouragement. It was no longer my fire to maintain. It was becoming ours, a shared hearth radiating a warmth that was more than just heat. It was community. Week 5 was about harvest. 5 conversations, 5 updated scrolls, and 4 fully articulated growth plans. The 5th creature, the badger, decided its path was to observe for a while longer, and we celebrated that choice as a success, too. But beyond the numbers and the artifacts, the real transformation was in their behavior. I saw it in the squirrel's newfound confidence, the fox's quiet initiative, the deer's sense of ownership over its contributions. And the change was in me too. The frantic need to had been replaced by a profound patience. The impulse to direct had softened into a clear, quiet intention. I was no longer just a source of fire. I was learning to be its keeper. But it wasn't easy. Change burns assumptions, old habits. My instinct was to fly fast. Coaching meant hovering, staying, letting others stumble. That's what real leadership asked of me. The old fires burned for me, for my own glory. They were a spectacle of power, a solitary blaze against the darkness. But now, I burn with intention. My wings still soar, but they no longer cast long, lonely shadows. My fire burns with, not above. It is a hearth, not a pyre. I'm not who I was. I am a flamekeeper, a builder of brilliance, a tender of potential. My purpose is no longer just to rise, but to lift. And this isn't the end. It is a transformation. Like all phoenixes, I will return to the ashes, but I will not go alone. I will carry the stories, the struggles, and the triumphs of my team with me. I will descend not in defeat, but in renewal. This is a deliberate act of letting go, of making space for the next cycle of growth. The ash is not a grave. It is fertile ground, enriched by all we have learned together. Each season, each team, each challenge, a new fire, a new rise. The cycle continues, but it spirals upward. We build upon the embers of our last success, learning from the moments we stumbled. I see it in them now, the confidence to gather their own kindling, the courage to face the wind. I will rise with them. Their strength is my strength. Their light is my light. We ascend as one. The fire isn't mine to keep. It was never truly mine to begin with. It is a current, an energy that flows through all things. My role is simply to be a conduit, a guide. It's mine to share. To see a spark I offered become a self-sustaining flame in another's hands is the greatest triumph. This is the legacy that endures, a constellation of lights burning brightly long after my own fire has returned to the earth. My identity is forged in this shared purpose. My wings are the shelter for their fledgling flames. My heart is the keeper of our collective warmth. I am the Flamekeeper.